ভয়েস আসছে? Dear students of class 11 in Rajshahi College, I welcome you all to this session in which I will tell you how you will prepare your assignments as per the schedule of the Directorate of Secondary and Higher Education in Bangladesh. You know, because of the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in Bangladesh, particularly in the Rajshahi division, the resuming of the classes, regular classes, has become a far task. Therefore, considering the lack of regular practice in studies, the Directorate of Secondary and Higher Education in Bangladesh has decided to keep the students engaged in their academic activities through attending online classes, etc., and to evaluate your own development, own progress in the studies in accordance with the syllabus suggested by NCTB, National Board for Curriculum and Education in Bangladesh. The authorities have taken a decision to ask you to prepare assignments or papers on the studies that you have already come across. This part of the academic activity for the students of class 11 started on June 14, and this is an ongoing process. And in the second week's task, the students have been asked to submit assignment papers to the respective colleges, and Rajshahi College, along with the other colleges in Bangladesh, has already given you instructions and directives how and when the assignment papers should be submitted. In the next week, particularly on 28th or 27th or 28th or 29th April, you will have to submit an assignment paper on a given topic in the departments, in the respective departments. Thus, I felt it an urgency to give you some ideas about writing the paper. Well, from the other subjects, writing papers on Bangla and English compulsory subjects is a little bit different. That is why I thought that I should provide you with some ideas to prepare your assignment papers. I know the college authority has already given you the instructions how to write the cover page and prepare assignment paper. Today, I will give you some ideas. I will try to provide you some ideas how you can write those papers, and remember that the papers must be written in your own handwriting, as well as it should express your own ability to communicate in English, that is, Of course, you will use your own language while writing the paper. I will tell you about some salient points that should be there in the papers. So, what is an assignment paper? An assignment paper theoretically is a paper which the students are or the stakeholders are asked to write on. It is something different from a research paper. In a research paper, the topic is usually chosen by the writer himself or herself, but when it is termed as assignment, it is suggestive that the topic of the paper is suggested by the authority, as you have been suggested to write on write about a Bangla or English short story that you have read. So, the first topic for the first assignment for the students of 11th class in for English compulsory paper 1 is to write about a Bangla or English short story that you have read. As you are in the mid teens, I think you have already read a number of short stories written by Mohammad or Jafar Iqbal, or the short stories that are given in your core text Bangla and English books. In English, you have got to read the stories like The Gift of the Magi, Luncheon, and others as your study materials for HSC English Paper 1 course. Well, along with the directive or topic of the first assignment for you, the authorities have also given an instruction that you have to write the assignment on the basis of your studies of Unit 13 in your textbook English for Today. In Unit 13, we have 2 lessons. Lesson 1 deals with the general ideas of food adulteration, its bad effects, its reasons, and also its remedy in an essay type writing. And the second lesson of Unit 13 deals with a story, The Luncheon. Well, looking at the assignment topic and also at the unit demarcation, many may think that the assignment should be written on the basis of the students' study of the Luncheon, that is the text for lesson 2 in Unit 13. But if you make a close look upon the topic of the assignment, you will realize that you have been asked to write about a Bangla or English short story. That is, it is not mandatory that you should write about The Luncheon by W. Somerset Maugham only. You can write about any other story either in any other story that may be a Bangla story or may be an English short story. Yet today I will discuss how you will prepare your assignment for submission to the college as your first assignment task by the end of this month on the basis of the given or suggested text, The Luncheon by W. Somerset Maugham. Well, before demonstrating the things that should be included in the assignment, let us take a glance upon the necessary things or theoretical aspects of writing an assignment at your level. Well, before providing the techniques of writing an assignment, let us try to understand why such an assignment is given. There is a learning outcome, and try to bear in mind that while you write the assignment or before writing the assignment, you should read the short story very closely so that you can understand it well. And though the luncheon is an example only, by the study of the assignment writing process and a short story, you will be able to write a short summary of the story or anything that you have that you come across. That is, you may have read some essay, you may have read some newspaper articles, or you may have read some religious books, and through the practice of writing assignments, through learning the process of writing assignments, you will be able to write something on the subject, on a subject, on a paper in your own understanding, in your own language. So, the first outcome is, the expected outcome of such a task is that a learner or student will be able to write a short summary of something. Though I have written the story, rather we should understand that, we can understand by this finding that the student or learner will be able to write a short summary of anything that he or she reads, as well as the process will certainly help the learner or the student to make an idea about the whole thing, and then the student will write up his or her personal opinion about a short story or something that he reads, as well as this assignment process will enable the students to write creative statements about a story, or in the greater sense about something he reads. In your future days, you will have to study a lot of books in your higher education, and whatever you read in your syllabus in the higher education level, you will have to make ideas about the things that you come across. And finally, there will be an extensive vocabulary exercise while you summarize something and express it, that summary in your own English, you will have to use your own vocabulary that will help you make a good exercise of your vocabulary ability. Thus, writing such assignments will help you practically spreading your ability in writing in English, as English does not make our everyday language and we do not use in our personal purposes. But in today's world, both for the students and for the people busy in different fields of life, need to use English, need to exercise different things in English. That is why it is high time you learned how to write in your own language instead of copying the language suggested by the writers or else one. With the objective of such learning outcomes, with the expectation that you will develop your ability to make an idea about whatever you read, and you will be able to write your personal opinions, express your personal opinions about something that you read, and write them in good English, as well as you may get an opportunity to exercise and develop your vocabulary. The authorities have suggested to write the assignments in your own language, in your own expression. Now, I will speak a few words about how you will develop your assignment essay. Well, though today I will demonstrate how you will write something about the luncheon, the choice is open. As I say, the choice is open because you are instructed or asked to write about a story either in Bangla or in English. Thus, the selection of the story that you want to read about is entirely yours. You can pick up any story. You can write about any story that you have read. That may be a story of Humayun Ahmed or Jafar Iqbal or W. Somerset Maugham or O. Henry or something like someone likewise. And it is important that you should write on that particular story. You should write about on that particular story which you have enjoyed while you read it. And the second important thing is that write the assignment in 200 to 250 words. That is, that should not be too short or too long. Too short an essay may limit your expression, may deprive you of the opportunity of writing in details, and writing more than 250 words in that essay may bore your examiner, as well as there is a scope of writing certain irrelevant things. My advice is that while you write the assignment, be aware that you are not leaving anything untouched or unexpressed, and you should not include anything that is not relevant for commenting or evaluating the story. And now let us go for practical writing. First, write the summary of the story or synopsis of the story. Focus on plot characters in which you have while you read a short story, you come across a plot or the events that take place by a number of individuals. The individuals whose actions and participations are narrated in the story are called characters. While you write the summary, you should focus on giving a short but vivid and clear description of the events that take place, narrative of the actions that the characters take part. At the same time, you should identify the major characters, the central character, the major characters and the minor ones in the story, and you will write all these things focusing on plot and characters in 5 to 10 or say in 5 to 8 or say 10 sentences. Your next job after writing the summary or synopsis of the story, you will introduce the characters, what I said. You, in the summary or synopsis section, you will write only the names of the characters. At best, you can give an idea about the relation among the characters in your summary section, summary or synopsis section. But after you have ended the summary or synopsis section, you should introduce the characters in details, their role, their function, their importance, their significance, their their activities in the story. Because all the characters in the fiction, in a short story, are the reflections of the characters the reflections of the individuals that we come across in our society, in our life. Therefore, the characters are important to compare ourselves with them and evaluate ourselves as individuals. After introducing the characters and their importance, significance, role, their contribution in the actions, etc., you need to write the things that you liked and did not like in the story. That is an evaluation on commentary. And if you have asked to bring some changes, I am sorry, not you have asked, you have been asked. Try to read it as if you have been asked to bring some changes. If someone, your teacher or someone tells you to bring some changes in the story, what would you change, or you mention whether it is a good writing, a good composition. Finally, you need to provide a concluding statement or a comment that should reflect your opinion on the good or strong or bad or weak sides of the story. Thus, the assignment should end with a commentary made by yourself that should include the things that you liked and the things that you did not like while you read the story. Well, to make the concept of the commentary more vivid, I will suggest you to provide the things such as the weak and strong sides of the story, that is why you consider the story good or bad. If you like a story, of course you have found in it some good points, some strong points, some strong actions or dialogues, maybe dialogues or maybe actions that interested you while you read the story, or sometimes you may get bored with some characters, or you may find some fault in some action or attitude or thought of some character that you consider as the bad expression by the writer. Thus, in your commentary, the commentary should be your conclusion speech or your end of the assignment. The end of the assignment, not your end, the end of the assignment, which should include the strong or the weak or the bad, and the strong or the good sides, good elements in the story. And finally, as per the instruction of NCTB, you will also mention whether there is a need of any change or correction. If you feel that the story is a well composed one, you need not make any change. But if you find some weak sides in the story, weak elements in the story, you may comment that those elements, those incidents or dialogues should be changed or corrected, and if you can also suggest some idea how the actions can be arranged, how the dialogues can be changed. And that's all to write a good assignment paper at your level. The examiners are aware that you are merely in your mid-teens. You do not have a general exercise in English language. Therefore, you will be evaluated not on the basis of the knowledge of your teachers, but on the basis of your own perception and your own usual expressive ability. Therefore, do not hesitate to write what you want to write, what you have understood from reading the story, what you actually have realized or discovered in the story, so that there is a reflection of the spontaneity of your reasoning faculty and creative faculty that will certainly give you good marks. Copying from something, repetition of the things may lengthen the make the assignment long, or copying from others' writings may make you write an assignment easily, but that also bears the risk of providing low marking, as the examiners of the papers may be bored with reading the same thing written by students after students. So, I will advise you to write whatever you write in your own language from your own perception. Finally, I will provide you some ideas if you choose to write about write about the if you chose to write about the story in your syllabus. And well, in this part of today's discussion, I will demonstrate how you will develop an assignment on the basis of your study of William Somerset Maugham's short story, The Luncheon, which you have been suggested to read in your court text in the second lesson of Unit 13. How will develop the assignment paper? The body of your assignment should be like the following steps. First, you need to provide the introduction of the short story, that is the writer's name, type of writing. You may start a topic sentence, you may start the essay with a topic sentence like such one. The Luncheon is a short story written by W. Somerset Maugham, or W. Somerset Maugham's short story The Luncheon is a unique work of fiction in English language. So, while you write such a sentence as the topic or introductory sentence of your assignment paper, you will in the same sentence providing the name of the writer as well as the type of writing, that it is a short story. And you will also provide the theme or the central idea of the story. For this part, you may you may write a sentence like such one. The story speaks about an individual's ignorance of the future, or an individual's innocence and his miseries, etc., that we get by the end of the story. We get the picture of the writer's mind, who is anxious. Well, we will not tell the writer here. Instead of using the word writer, we will use the word narrator. What I was saying, by the end of the story, we learn about the anxiety of the writer, who has already spent all his savings to meet up the needs of his admirer and guest, and he is anxious now how he will pass the rest of the month. So, in this second section of your assignment, you will give the central idea, you will provide or write, you need to write or provide the central idea of the story. But for example, if you write your assignment on the Luncheon, you should write a sentence like this one. The story is written about the foolishness of human beings, or the ignorance of human beings, etc. In the same paragraph, you will proceed to write the summary of the synopsis. For the Luncheon, you will introduce the characters, you will introduce the narrator or the guest. Well, there is a little difference between a narrator and a writer. A writer is an individual one who is static in his personality, but the writer may assume the voice of someone else. For example, Humayun Ahmed, we know, was a university professor and a writer, but sometimes while he writes in a first person narrative, he assumes the tone of a tone of someone else, maybe the narrator of his novel or short story, a doctor or an engineer or a teacher, even a woman. So, for evaluating, for assessing any story, we will discover the writer in the story as the narrator. In this story, since the narrative is written in the first person, we assume the writer's personality in the behavior of the narrator, and the narrator and the lady guest are the main characters in the novel. At the same time, from the very beginning, we get how a writer is weakness. The writer himself is the narrator himself is the writer. The writer assumes the voice of the narrator, and through the words of the narrator, Somerset Maugham shows a writer's weakness for the admirers. He also gives a vivid description of poets and introduction of poets. What is poets? From the story, we learn that poets is an aristocratic restaurant in France where the French senators and other elites go for taking lunch or taking some other food. After coming to poets, we see that the lady, during the conversation with the host narrator, orders different food and drink items one after another. Her orders for food items or drinks show her voracious nature. You can depict her voracious nature, and at the same time you need to provide a catalog of the food items and the drink items that she orders one after another and takes them without any hesitation. Her taking of the food items show her a woman with greed as well as a woman with inconsideration. He doesn't care for the ability of a young writer who has just started writing things, and she misses the common sense that a young man, particularly a young writer, was incapable of providing an entertainment in today's popular English, a treat. She does not consider the ability of the writer, the ability of a young writer, whether he is at all capable of give a proper treat to an admirer in an expensive restaurant like Ford's. Well, one thing to be noted here, that it was the guest lady admirer's proposal that they should meet nowhere else but in the Ford's, that expensive restaurant. One amusing aspect of this story is that the writer was not only speechless but also helpless when the lady guest was ordering one item of food or drink after another, and she was horrified but could not make any process. Your synopsis should include the writer's timidity in this regard, as well as you should note the picture of his mind, that he became anxious at the end of the story to think of his uncertain days coming ahead, because whatever he had for the month, he had spent almost everything, and at one stage he was afraid whether he could be able to pay the bill at all. Finally, the writer, we find that ends his story with a curse upon the lady, and his curse, well, he admits that he was not a vindictive person, but he wanted that the lady should get a lesson, and the lesson of the lady came through the revenge of nature, and very amusingly he expresses he expresses his satisfaction with the bulk of the lady's physical aspect. So your synopsis should be brief, but that should include all the important aspects, all the important events and things that are presented by the writer. Finally, after making the synopsis or body of the assignment paper, you should make your concluding commentary about the story. In that commentary, that should be expressed, it should be expressed, not that, it should be in your commentary, it should be expressed clearly whether you liked or disliked the story. To show your like or dislike for the story, you need to mention the aspects. What are the things that you should take in your consideration? You may have other considerations. My opinion is that, my suggestion is that you will focus on the simplicity of a writer, a young writer who is budding and expecting name and fame, and with the letter of an unknown admirer, the writer became exalted, and at the same time he became, you may call it, excited to meet the admirer, particularly because of the admirers being a woman. Though his anticipation was wrong, it was his innocence, it was the writer's innocence that he expected that his admirer should be a young and attractive lady, but when he met her in fires, he was disappointed to see the woman in a considerably matured age and physical appearance. Not only in his anticipation, we see the writer or the narrator's innocence about human nature. He was also innocent about the attitude of the guest, for which ultimately the writer had to spend out all the money he had with him. There is another important aspect in the story, that is the irony for the lady waiting. Irony, irony means something, irony means an incident or a speech which contradicts the reality, and in the reality the outcome is quite contradictory or contrasting with what is said or with what is done or what is seen. So the lady considered, as we assume, herself very smart, intelligent, or rather very cunning, but ultimately she paid her she paid for her nature, and because of her voracious nature, in the later years she became a lady with a great bulk, and the writer comments that she weighed 21 stones when they met again after a long interval. And finally, you should provide the moral of the story, the destiny of the greedy woman who became fatty, or you may call a woman with a great bulk, and this comment on the story of the characters should make the end of your assignment paper. You should, as I told in the general discussion, you should provide your own idea about the composition, whether the composition is a good one, a well constructed writing, or it has some weak points. If you are asked to bring any change to avoid those weak points, what we will write. If you have any suggestion, you can provide your opinion in the final sentence of the story, at the end of the story. And I believe from this session you will get an idea about preparing your assignment, and you will write it in simple English, correct vocabulary, so that your teachers can provide you good marks. Getting good marks depends not on the teacher's attitude, it depends on the students or the examinees or the assignment preparers quality. So my advice is that you should avoid writing two things. You should avoid writing two things. One, irrelevant things, irrelevancy, and wrong English. Write what is relevant in easy English, in easy diction, so that you do not suffer from writing wrong English or bad English. And finally, in conclusion, I remind you that you may write about any story that you have enjoyed reading. That may be a Bangla story or that may be an English story. It is not mandatory that you should write on the luncheon or on an English short story only. If you feel it easy for you to write on a Bangla story, write about a Bangla story, you can write about a Bangla story. That is, any story that you liked while reading, you may write about. But if you write about a Bangla story, remember that you must write it in English, because if you think that when the story itself is in Bangla, you can write the assignment in Bangla as well, you will get a simple 0. So even if you want to write about a Bangla story, you should write the assignment. You must mandatorily write your assignment in English. Thank you. Thank you for today. I hope to see good assignment papers while we will examine your scripts. Thank you.